I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's Meet the Candidates Night. Tonight we're going to be listening to the positions and viewpoints of our county representative candidates. And I can see that based on what we saw last week, some of us are still drying out from Sunday's storm. But I still think it's going to be a very exciting meeting. First of all, I'd like to also thank the Huntington Township Chamber of Commerce for co-hosting this event. And let me be the first to wish our candidates good luck. Thank you for your attendance. Let me just tell you that for nearly 100 years, the League has advanced its mission to preparing our citizens to vote and be active participants in the political process. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization, which means that we neither support or oppose a particular political candidate or political party. However, we are a political organization, and we have positions on issues in a number of areas. If you're interested and excited about what you learned tonight, I encourage you to consider becoming a member of the League of Women Voters as we continue to educate our community and prepare them for further civic participation. As an overview, the purpose of this forum is basically to help you learn about the key issues of the campaign and to witness candidates discuss those issues face to face. All of our policies are related to forums, that's designed to support these goals. Now let me give you a little background about our Meet the Candidates process. Questions to the candidates are developed by co-sponsors and ourselves to be read by the moderator, Ms. Lisa Scott, who is the president of the League of Women Voters of Suffolk County ILO. Any additional questions from the audience must be written on index cards that you can find that have been handed to you as you walked in, and additional index cards can be available to you. All of your questions are reviewed to reduce redundancy and to omit queries that are personal or offensive. Now, as you write your questions, just try to make sure that they can be posted to all of the candidates running for that seat. Once you have a question that you'd like to be submitted to our vendors, please hand it to one of our league members who are standing around the room. Now, one of the things that we do is that we record these forums. The League of Women Voters is the only authorized recorder. As you can see, we have a video camera that is set up, and a recording of this forum will be available on our YouTube station, on Facebook, and if possible, on our cable channel access station. That means that you are not permitted to record this forum, either on audio recording or a video recording, using any kind of device. And that includes your cell phone. And with that in mind, please mute your cell phone to be courteous of the other people who are attending. One of the things that we would like to talk to you about today as well is the League's policy. Actually, the League of Women Voters of New York State policy, in which we do not conduct a candidates forum in which only one candidate is present to participate. We have such a case today. If a remaining candidate is present, then they will be introduced from the audience by our moderator and is welcome to stay at the event and mingle with the public at the end of this forum. As I said, this is the case for this evening's forum. As the 13th district race, only one candidate is in attendance. And of course, I forgot the most important thing. My name is Colette Canute, And I am the president of the League of Women Voters of Huntington. So with that, Lisa? Oops, I always forget. How can I? I would like to have us led by the chair of the Huntington Township Chamber of Commerce in the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone please say it.
Good evening, everyone. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We wish everyone well tonight. Last week was very spirited and excellent. We hope it is again tonight. Okay. Thank you, Colette, and thank you again to the candidates as well. If you know me at these debates, I have a really hard time staying on this side behind this mic, so I'm also hopefully going to wander and talk to you from the front with a laugh. So for the audience, just be aware, because eye contact is important, you and them, and it's hard to do it from this spot. Again, as Colette said, I am not a resident of the town of Huntington. I do not vote in any of these districts. I live in the town of Smithtown. Again, in support of the League's nonpartisan standing, the idea is to be fair and equitable. That also holds true for your questions. Pointed questions that are kind of gotcha questions will not make it through the vetting process. If there's an issue that you think is really important, simply rephrase your question, take the card back, and write it in a way that it can be answered by all of the candidates. We believe that most of the questions we're getting are going to be applicable to all the districts up here. However, I've already seen that a couple of questions are coming through with the district number indicated, and we will try to get to those as well. But we want to get to the more general county legislature, Suffolk County issues. And thus we'll go through all 6 of the candidates up here right now, sort of in a rotating succession with these questions. The candidates have agreed to 1 minute for an intro statement. Never enough for a political candidate. When each candidate finishes their opening statement, feel free to applaud. That's your chance. After that, not till the end. And I will stop if a cell phone goes off, or if there's an undercurrent of comment, or there's any other kind of interruption. And all that really means is you lose time for additional questions. So we do want to get to a lot of issues if we can. They'll each get 1 minute to answer a question. They don't have to go a full minute, but if they go over, Diane Slavin, who's the chair of the Voter Service Committee, do you have a bell tonight, or what do you? Okay, I may have to interrupt. Please finish your phrase, not your paragraph, okay? Because we'll never get out of here otherwise. And then at the end, each candidate will have 1 minute to make their closing statement. That'll be their chance to get to some salient points that they haven't been able to get across with some of the questions. Each candidate also has 1 red card, maroon card. Somebody want to hold one up so the audience will see? Okay, a red card is a rebuttal. You get 30 seconds, if you waive it, to respond again to a question. But you only get to use it once. So use it wisely. Yes, the whole night. But you also, the candidates will be making notes. If there's something they really want to say, they'll say it during their closing statement as well, because that's what they leave behind to convince each of you in their district to vote for them. So I think without further ado, we're going to start across the top here with Ms. Berland, and then we'll continue here. You'll get 1 minute, again, applaud if you wish after each person, and then when we finish the intros, we'll get right to the answers to the questions. No more applause. Also, if you don't mind, I would say stay seated, then everybody will be the same height.
All right, good evening, everyone. everyone. Councilwoman Susan Berland, and I thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this, and thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. Look forward to answering your questions. I've been your councilwoman here in the town for 16 years, and I'm looking to get elected to the Suffolk County Legislature, the 16th Legislative District. Before I was elected to the town board as a practicing attorney, I was a prosecutor for the Attorney General's office. I prosecuted parole violators and kept dangerous criminals off the street. I was a prosecutor for the town of Huntington as an assistant town attorney, prosecuting code violations. And I think I've done a lot of really good things for the town of Huntington for the last 16 years. I've really concentrated on the constituents. I'm the town's first and only full-time council person, and I want to bring that experience to the people of the 16th Legislative District. I want to make your life better. I want you to stay here in Suffolk County, and I appreciate all the support I've gotten over the last 16 years, and I really look forward to answering your questions and hopefully get your support on November 7th. Thank you very much.
If you don't mind, just stay seated.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, good evening. My name is Hector Gavilla, and I'm so looking forward to being your next Suffolk County legislator in the 16th district. I am a father of 2 teenagers who I'm very proud of. The reason that I want to run is because our county and our town government has failed us for many years. If you recall, in the 70s, Grumman and other corporations employed more than 25,000 people in Long Island. Today, the biggest employer is either the government or the library. The private sector jobs are gone. And why is that? Because the taxes and the fees keep going up and up. And when they can't increase your taxes, they increase or make new fees, like the mortgage recording fees and the tax map ID fee, which there's a lawsuit about. And we need major campaign finance reform. So not only do we have to make this more business friendly, but we have to make sure that the current incumbents do not vote on contracts where those special interest groups gave them money. And that's something that I want to do when I become the next legislator, is make sure that we do have major campaign finance reform to prevent that from happening. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event and Harborfields Library for hosting. I'm Dr. William Spencer, and I've had the privilege of being the first physician elected to our legislature. Serving as a legislator has been the opportunity of a lifetime to fight for our families and our children. Together, we've made an impact on the health of our youth. We've raised the smoking age to 21. We've protected youth from dangerous energy drinks, and some of these things have not only gone national, but have gone worldwide. We've touched the lives of hundreds of youth with our mentoring programs. I've worked closely with our law enforcement partners to bring Narcan to all our law enforcement, saving 1,800 lives. We've established a hotline. We've engaged the efforts of our federal partners. We've protected our water. We have strong results because I know how to work to get things done. And I'm asking for your vote so that I can continue to fight for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dominic Spada. I am the Deputy Mayor of Huntington Bay, as well as the Police Commissioner. I am the Second Assistant Chief of the Hillside Fire Department. I am married. I have a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old who are 2 wonderful kids. And what I see in Suffolk County right now is debt of $2 billion, a $200 million deficit. We have fees that are crushing the middle class. And as we move along, to top it all off, we saw our law enforcement officials be whisked away in handcuffs this week. Not to mention, we have a police chief that was sitting in a federal penitentiary. This is not the Suffolk County that I want to see. I want to see an affordable, safe place with accountability and transparency. And I ask for your vote on November 7th in the 18th Legislative District. All I have done is help my community I created a drug awareness program called Be Smart, Don't Start.
Thank you.
Over 3,000 kids have gone through that. Thank you.
Mr. Donnelly.
Hi, good evening. I'll be very short. I have 3 daughters, so I'm well equipped for this forum tonight. I'm a Berland Town councilman. I'm running for the 17th Legislative District. I look forward to answering all your questions tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Schuon.
Hi, my name is Bob Schuon. I've lived here in Suffolk County for 20 years now. And the reason I'm running is that we go back and forth every year. And every year we're deeper in debt. Every year taxes go up, fees go up. Businesses move out, our kids move out. And I don't want to see my 8-year-old grandson move off Long Island.
Good evening.
Mr. Trotta.
Good evening. My name is Mike Troetti. I apologize for being late. I commuted from New Jersey. It took me about 2.5 hours to get here. So I'll say be very quick. The other night, one of my neighbors asked me, why are you running? I said to him, I started to think about a little bit of talking points. And I said, you know, the reason why I'm running is because I care about Suffolk County. And I care about the District 17. And what I feel is that the direction we're heading in right now concerns me for my family, my daughters, and possibly my grandchildren. So I feel I have the ability to contribute with all my executive experience to try to correct these problems. Thank you.
And before we start with the first question, I do want to point out Rob Trotta, who's in the 13th section. Unfortunately, Mr. Trotta's opponent is not campaigning, which meant that we could not see him in an actual district debate. But I hope Rob will stay, and we'll finish a little early, and I encourage you to visit with Rob here, and otherwise contact him. He has strong feelings about many issues. Thanks, Rob. Okay. Now we'll start with the first question, and we're going to alternate. So, Mr. Gavilla, you would get this first, and then we'll go around. Okay? Are you happy with the current operation of the county? How do you think you could affect a change by being elected?
How much time?
1 minute.
Okay, I am not happy with the county because they are mismanaging our money. And they do not have a balanced budget. They created over $90 million in fees. Fee is a 3-letter word for backdoor tax. So, for example, there's a tax map ID fee that literally costs you at least $1,400 in fees to Suffolk County if you want to refinance your mortgage. And it doesn't matter what size the mortgage is, if it's a $200,000 mortgage or a $500,000 mortgage, and that hurts everybody. And our incumbents, I like Doc Spencer, but he voted for it, and he mistakenly said it's only $300. It's $300 per document that gets recorded. And what's going on is that the current legislators that are in there are just rubber stamping everything, and they're taxing us to death. And that's why all these businesses and all these people are leaving Long Island, is because they're being overtaxed. And that what I will do, to answer your question, is cut the fees and cut the taxes and cut these expenses. Because I'm a businessman, I know exactly how to do that. It's time the taxpayers come first.
Thank you. Dr. Spencer? Folks, hold the applause till the end of the debate, please. Dr. Spencer, same question. Yeah, we're going.
So I am happy because I feel that we've lived in one of the best places on earth. When I came into the legislature in 2012, this was after the Great Recession of 2008, where we saw $1 billion of sales tax revenue leave Suffolk County. So when I came in, we made tough decisions. We reduced our workforce by 10%. We consolidated departments. We froze salaries. And we made the difficult choices, but we also realized that there are people whose lives depend on what we do every day. So there have been times where we've made decisions to have a fee in place to be able to account for the service, to make it equivalent to what we're seeing around other counties. But there's also been times where we have held the line on taxes and also on fees. So do we have our challenges? Yes. Am I happy in the direction that we're going? Yes. We've made positive steps.
Thank you. Mr. Spada?
Thank you. I'm not happy with the direction that Suffolk County is going in. We need to implement campaign finance reform. Without campaign finance reform, the playing field will never, ever be level. We have contracts that are being negotiated that are cost prohibitive, and when politicians, whether they be Republican or Democratic, take money from special interests, the best interests of the residents of Suffolk County are put behind. Well, we have to pay $60 million in compensated absences to retiring police officers. And Mr. Malone has to go to the state and ask for a $60 million loan for going away money. That's a problem. When we have $92 million in illegal fees and a lawsuit being put on us that can bankrupt the county, I'm not happy.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Spada. Mr. Donnelly, same question.
So, we face pretty significant challenges. I think everybody on this panel is going to agree with that. But we didn't get here in the last couple of years. This is over a 40-year period. We can go back to the 1970s and talk about the law enforcement contracts. We're not going to get out of this tomorrow. I think that the county at large is taking steps that's bringing the deficit down, but there's more work to do. And let me tell you, folks, I'm a pretty bipartisan guy. I'm very, very level-headed. I don't get caught up in anything. And we may have to make more drastic cuts that will be very, very painful. There's no getting around that. It's either we continue to make cuts, reduce services, right? We can look at contractual obligations as well, but that's the executive branch part of the government. That's what they're responsible to do. And I'll just finish with this. I don't think the sky is crashing in Suffolk, but we do have work to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schuon?
Yeah. I do have a problem with one word that was used, bipartisan. Okay? I'm here for the Reform Party, and I'm an endorsed candidate for the Libertarian Party. The reason for that is you don't want the referee to be chosen from one of the two teams, do you? Okay? We need independent people. We need to cut the budget. We need to balance the books. Every year we don't balance the books is another year that we're going to have to create new fees, new taxes. We're already in the hole, by some accounts, $2 billion. How do we recover that? Okay, we have a big problem in Suffolk County. Does anyone here think it's sustainable that we can continue what we're doing? Keep spending? We have to stop. We have to get it under control. We need somebody to say, stop. Can we spend this money? Is this a priority? We have MS-13. We have the opioid epidemic. We have all of these problems. We need to focus on our priorities and then balance our budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Troetti?
Yes, I look at Suffolk County and I say, where are the jobs? We've lost so many high-paying permanent jobs over the last 10 years, maybe longer. And to Tom's point, yes, the economy has changed. And when I look at a few of the companies in my own industry that are moving off Long Island, or have moved off Long Island, they say the same thing. They say it's unstable condition because of the taxes keep rising. And whether it's the county tax or the school tax, the cost of doing business continues to go up. It's regulations and fees That puts onuses on businesses, and by the way, it scares businesses from moving here. So when I look at the direction of Suffolk County, I say, look, let's start off with the easy stuff. Let's cut some of the regulations. Let's reduce some of the fees, and then tackle the hard issues of the budgets and the expenses that we face. Because tax revenues are not going to go up, because retail has changed. More business on the internet means less sales tax collected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. New statement.
Susan.
Oh, Susan, I'm sorry. Ms. Berland, sorry.
No, Susan's fine.
Yes.
Okay, I think you're going to see a clear divide who's happy and who's not happy, and you just have to put everybody in their various side when you're looking at that. The reality is we can always do better, and we need to do better. We need to, get the county budget balanced. But I mean, if you read Newsday, which I did the other day on October 25th, it says last week the Labor Department reported the Long Island economy was growing at an annual rate of 8,800 jobs in September. So, the idea that everybody's leaving Long Island, I don't think is accurate. The type of businesses have changed. A lot of people work out of their houses. A lot of people, they're not looking for the big corporation type things to work from, going to that particular office. When we all came here, we lived on Long Island, we worked in the city. We worked someplace else. That's what we were looking for. We're looking for a place to live and raise our family and have services and things that make us want to live here. And that's what we need to continue to do.
Thank you. Dr. Spencer, start with you on the next one. We've heard in the last question about areas to cut, and we're also hearing about changes to regulations, concerns about the budget. So let's start talking about specifics within that. The opioid crisis. Could you tell us what do we need to do to address it? Where are we going to get the money from? And what might really work?
Thank you. That's something that I feel the strongest about. This is the first time that our children have had to bury themselves, and that's unacceptable. My record on the opioid epidemic was that I was able to take Narcan and introduce it throughout our precincts. We established a 24-hour hotline that could connect people with beds. But we need more money, so I supported and co-sponsored the resolution to sue the opioid manufacturer so that we can hold them responsible. We've just released a new app called Save Lives Long Island that will allow our families to be able to connect to services immediately. This is something that I believe is also holistic, like raising the smoking age and stopping kids from using energy drinks, giving them healthy coping techniques. So this is something that as a doctor, I've personally seen people collapse in front of me, and I've actually saved their lives by maintaining their airway. So this is a practical challenge that is the biggest thing that of our generation.
Thank you. Mr. Spada, same question?
Thank you. The opioid issue on Long Island is out of control. Between June 15th and August 1st, there are 575 overdoses. I have been responding to opioid overdoses for some time now, and it prompted me to start a program called Be Smart, Don't Start. Narcan is a blessing and a curse. It's a great tool for the EMTs and police officers in the field. But I can't tell you how many times I've gone out, administered Narcan, only to go back a week or two later. What we need is legislation that if EMS or PD administers Narcan, these people who are afflicted with addiction move immediately to treatment. Just like when we have a person who is emotionally disturbed, 72-hour hold out in Stony Brook. We need to move quickly on that. And we need to get money from the state for prevention and awareness programs.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
Just ditto to what everybody said behind me. This is not a partisan issue, folks. Lots of folks in this room who are parents. We need to stop burying our children. I would just say that nobody's born thinking that they're going to be a heroin epidemic or a heroin addict. So it's a triangle is what it is. There's three parts to the triangle. First is education, trying to educate our young people. The connecting part is law enforcement, trying to stop the supply. And the third part is rehabilitation, trying to treat those that are afflicted. All of us here up on the dais across the table are doing our best to address this. So I put this as a nonpartisan issue. It's a public health issue that affects all of us. And I think that all of us here as candidates are in it together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schuon?
Yes, I agree. This is a medical issue, okay? People need treatment. Many times, they're thrown in jail, get a criminal record, and that's it. Once you get a criminal record in the state, it's forever, okay? You can't vote. Any felonies, you can't vote in the state. Okay, they need medical help, they need treatment, and the people that sold them the drugs need to go to jail. Okay, this is what we need to focus on. Okay, this is one of the primary issues we need to focus on. So how about we stop writing tickets and we stop charging these fees and we put the police where they are needed and put our medical services where they are needed and get people help and stop throwing them in jail.
Thank you. Mr. Troetti?
Yes, I can't disagree with anything that anybody else said here. But what I will say is that now that the federal government has recognized this as a serious epidemic, it's time to draw more funds off the federal government as well as the state. In addition to that, I agree with the education part. We should enhance the education. But more importantly, I think we need to cut off the supply. I know Tom already said that, but empowering the police and actually bringing in more of the police to talk about what they need and give them the tools they need to go out and go after these people who are doing the supply. You know, I don't think we'll ever get rid of the problem entirely. I think all of our generations have had some form of narcotic as their crux. But I think we can eliminate it to the best of our ability, minimize the impact to our society, and try our best to eliminate the criminal entity that's pushing this form of drug. That's really what's behind it. And then the education with it would help our kids stay out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Berland?
I agree with everything everyone said. For me, this is a very personal issue. Cousin and the whole family's in a car accident. Long story short, they're all given opioids for pain. My young cousin went from that to heroin and was in and out of rehab. When she got out of rehab, she just said, maybe I'll do it just one more time. And what happens is our young people are using the amount of heroin that they used before they went into treatment. She took one more time, and that was it. And to bury her in a white casket, it was just something nobody should have to go through. So, this to me, like I said, it's personal. I think we have to have prevention programs. They have to start younger. With our kids, with the internet, the young kids in elementary school, they are, subject to things that we were not. So we really have to start, getting them to absolutely say no, and then we have to have intervention, we have to step in, we have to do treatment programs. So education is so important, and coordinate between all levels of government to get as much money as we can to Suffolk County, who has a terrible problem which we really need to fix.
Thank you. Mr. Gavilla?
Yes. Well, I don't think getting more money into Suffolk County is the solution. But I do think that we have to have stricter laws against drug dealers. Also, I think that it starts with doctors and the pharmaceutical companies. For example, my son, about 2 years ago, had knee surgery, and immediately afterwards, when he was going through recovery, a nurse was trying to push the Percocet on him and said, press the button when you feel the pain, and they had us get the prescription. But I read into it, and I told my ex-wife, I said, this is something that can start to addiction. And so we disposed of the narcotics properly, and what I'd like to see are laws that prevent doctors from getting gifts or any kind of money from pharmaceutical companies, and doctors should not even get a pen from a pharmaceutical company, because that's one of the areas where it does begin that addiction, because you get some type of surgery, and then you physically get addicted to this narcotics, and it leads to disaster. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Spada, this next question is going to start with you. The county executive has put in a czar for shared services. And shared services is a strategy that's being considered at municipal levels, school levels, and towns. How do you think the county could do more or really encourage some cost savings through shared services?
You know, we deal with some shared services.
We deal with shared services through the fire department. We share an EMT with Centerport and Halesite, 365, 24/7. It saves a little bit of money, but if the governor really wanted to save money, he would put a cap on binding arbitration, say 2%, right? We have to think about those things. We need to look at the tri-borough law, right? You can save money with shared services, but at the end of the day, it's not a lot of money, and it might end up costing you more, because if you go out and you hire outside contractors, it might be more cost effective to use your county workers. So we really need to look at that harder, but it may not be the best idea overall.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
So it has validity. Again, I would agree with Tom. You don't know what the cost rationale is going to be to it because we haven't really implemented it, right? So I think trying to get a plan in place to get it implemented is going to be step one. And then look at what's the net result of that. But theoretically, it is a good thing. In Babylon, we do it already with the villages, where we share some DPW services. We help them, they'll help us. And if anything else, it leads to greater cooperation between the county, the towns, and the villages. And in times of crisis, that's really important, folks. So if anything else, it increases the level of cooperation across governmental lines. And that's what we should really all be about. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schuon?
Yes, shared services, of course, they're wonderful. The fire departments on Long Island they share the responsibility for protecting us all, okay? However, we can also put much more of this out to the public sector. Why is it always the government that pays for this, okay? They pay internally without any checks, balances, okay? Nobody sees these bills, but if it goes out for public contract, that gets scrutinized because you guys get to see it. Okay, this is what we need to do. We need to stop putting everything under the county and get it out to contractors that we can watch, that we can stop them if they're not doing a good job, and that we can have them take care of the things that are happening every day. They're out there every day. Okay, the county workers are great, don't get me wrong, but that's not the most cost-effective method.
Mr. Troetti?
Yeah, you know, I look at shared services a little bit differently. The county has many departments, one being the IT area. And the IT area might actually be a revenue producing. And I say that because IT is very complicated, very challenging these days. We're protecting our information against hackers, viruses, and so on. So why not use the county's resources and put that out to towns, put that out to school systems? Perhaps collect a fee off of them instead of each one of those towns and school systems going out and hiring consultants. Bringing in experts from the outside where they spend consulting contracts and money to implement the different services. We can all act as those consultants. And in some ways, the county already has those programs in place and can share them across many different levels of government. And perhaps produce some fees and income, help reduce the budget, and minimally help the other areas who are not experts. We have educators who are there to educate. They're not there to pick out the right software system or the right consultant to implement their system. So I say let's try something different. Try purchasing department as well. So those are my ideas for shared services.
Thank you. Ms. Berland?
Yes, just to piggyback on that, the purchasing department is an incredible area to share services and a great way to save money. You can buy on New York State bid. There are companies that are on those bids that have agreed to certain prices, and those prices are significantly less than if you were to go out on a separate bid. So you get the benefit of that. It happens all the time in the town of Huntington, where we, want to build something, whether it's a playground or do, fence installation or something like that. We're taking it off of a state bid contract and getting a better price for it. When you purchase, supplies that you need also, you should get them off of state bids. And when we have the town GIS program, we now purchase from the county. So we are getting the benefit of what the county had put together for a GIS program, which gives you all the information on your properties and everything else, and now we have that from the county. So when you take programs that have been developed at a higher level than you are, and get those programs down to the schools, for instance, or the towns with the county, and it helps save money all around.
Thank you. Mr. Gavilla?
The idea of using shared services is actually just a distraction for the real reason why we have high costs in government. And those costs include wages, and they include government contracts, and they also include pensions. And come on, we all know those are the reasons why we have expensive government. This is why we need campaign finance reform. Now, Doc Spencer mentioned that, they froze the salaries, but that only saved $26,000. That's nothing to brag about, okay? And then I have my opponent who's currently getting a lot of money from the PBA, the police unions, and that's the biggest contract that we have, and it's coming up for renewal. And we don't want her voting yes on that contract, okay? Because that's what Doc Spencer did, and now we have to borrow money just to pay for retiring police that are retiring in the next 2 years. We can't afford to pay them those high salaries. And it's not about the cops, and the unions are doing their jobs, okay? It's just that we need to be able to approve contracts that we can afford. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 red cards. Ms. Berland has on first.
Look, this is the last debate. I've been hearing this hoo-ha through the whole entire thing. Okay, I got the endorsement from every single law enforcement agency because of my law enforcement background as a prosecutor. Not for any money or anything like that. What my opponent fails to say is he got $14,000 from unions. And there are his filings, which I have copies of if anybody'd like to see. $14,000. I didn't get $14,000 from anybody. So if you want to talk campaign finance reform, first of all, where are all your disbursements? Where are all your expenses? Where's all your money coming from? How are you spending it? Where is it going? I see you got $12,000 from a union and another $1,000 from a union, and that same union gave you another $1,000, plus you got another $1,000 from the last one. So let's talk reality.
Mr. Donnelly had his card up second.
Just, to reiterate what I said earlier, we didn't get to where we are because of the last several years. The Suffolk County Police Department's been in existence since 1960. That's a lot of labor contracts. We're paying out a lot of money in pensions and in payroll as well. If people live longer, that's a good thing, right? So we're obligated to make those pension obligations. So I think that the county executive and the labor unions do need to come together and try to look at some concessions, because we don't want to get to a place that's going to be really bad. So, but again, it comes back to my original theme, bipartisanship.
Thank you. Mr. Gavilla, do you want to use your red card? 30 seconds. Quick.
All right. I don't know where that union money is. If someone knows where it is, please bring it my way, because I need it. Okay, great, thank you. Bring the checks to my office, okay. I got to say one other thing. My opponent has accepted $24,000 from Gary Milius, and in exchange for that, she approved the condos at the, his castle. Okay, the castle. Okay. So that's a true place.
Please, folks, if someone has to rise, let me finish.
Okay. But what I'm saying is that she has a history of doing that. And I know that she will approve a contract or many contracts that we cannot afford, okay? And that's what I see every time I go to the legislative meetings and they have to approve these contracts. They just rubber stamp it, and that's why we have a $3 billion budget and we're running over $165 million deficit.
All right, thank you. Mr. Schuon, 30 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, bipartisan, okay? This is the problem. We need reform in Suffolk County. We need people who are not tied to the political machine. We need people who are not restrained by some big party holding them down. Okay? I am not owned by anyone. This is the deal. Okay? We can continue going down the same old road, or we can decide to change. you.
Thank you, Mr. Troetti. 30 seconds.
Ron, just to point out, I've never run for office. I've never held office. This is my first time to get involved because I can. And so please don't put me in the same box as everybody else.
Okay. Dr. Spencer, the question was actually on shared services. And you're the last speaker on that question.
Thank you. Shared services are important. We're doing them all the time, but the new plan allows us to kind of have all those services in one place. So we might be doing them locally, but the idea that now we can do them regionally. If I have a graffiti truck, it's great that another village, maybe that's not contiguous, could also use that graffiti truck. I think that's the way we can really make up the difference. We see this in our schools, we see this with contract agencies where there's administrative costs, there's accounting costs, there's lawyer fees, and the idea that we can share these services will save us money. Another big part of that is, I get a minute for that. No, a minute. I'm on the original question, right? I get a minute. Never argue with the timekeeper, but I do have 30 more seconds. Another big thing that we need to do is to get our fair share. Right now, for every dollar we send to Washington, we only get 84 cents in return. And that's been one thing that I've been big at, is really tracking down and making sure that we get our fair share from the federal government. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving to a completely different question now. We're going to start with Mr. Donnelly up front here. And I'm combining an audience question with a few other things. The Suffolk County Health Department actually is a very powerful department. And some of the constituents find that they're very difficult to navigate, don't move expeditiously, yet they seem to be the gatekeeper more so than the towns on a lot of sewage and various treatment options. So Mr. Donnelly, could you comment on what you think is working or what you would prioritize if you were elected regarding the health department?
I agree. The Department of Health is a problem, I think. In Berland, we have basically a bit of a rat problem, like many other areas, and it's always a bit of a hassle to get the Department of Health to react to it. So what happens is, at the town level, the town's environmental staff winds up taking on the task. So one of the things I'm going to look at is, how do they function? What's their operating guidelines? What's their staff level? These are some kind of basic questions that I do want to ask. And it shouldn't be that bogged down. You know, if we're going to be pro-business the way we say we are, then we got to try and move it along. And rest assured, I'm not going to squirm to disagree with somebody on the executive side of the government. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schuon, same question?
I have some personal experience with this. When they put the Tango Mall in Deer Park, we have septic tanks when I lived in Deer Park. Okay, and we didn't get sewers, but yet the Tango Mall got sewers going down Comac Road all the way to the sewage treatment plant, bypassing houses that didn't have them. Okay. Also, I knew about the rat problem in Deer Park because it was in our neighborhoods. And the Suffolk County Health Department basically said, well, that's your problem, call an exterminator. Not acceptable. These are the things that the county is responsible for. Okay? Rats cause disease. They carry it. Okay? These are the things that we need to focus on because they're the priorities. Are we focusing on our priorities? I don't think so.
Thank you. Mr. Troetti?
Ron likes to pass the microphone. You know, when I listen to the issues that are being brought up here, it goes back to accountability. You know, with each one of these departments, you have a head. And if they're not being accountable, they're not being called out on not accomplishing things, then it's time to change. We shouldn't just continue people in positions because they're friends of politicians.
Speak louder, please.
I'm sorry.
I will use this one.
Yeah, let me try. Oh, you know what, I'm not holding this close enough, that's why. Anyway, I said we're not holding people accountable for their jobs. And it's time to make changes if they're not responding to us, right? Because we're all paying the taxes. We all expect our services. If they're not responding to us, then it's up to the people in charge to start making changes and ensure that when the budgets do come up, ask them what they accomplished and what do they expect accomplished, and hold them accountable to a series of metrics that measure their performance along the way, and whether it be the number of calls that were answered versus the number of calls that were fulfilled. Something needs to be done in order to make these people do their jobs. Sorry.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, same question?
Yeah, it's dealing with, whenever there's a building in the town and someone wants, to bring a new building, they have to go to the Department of Health, they have to get approvals from the Department of Health. And often, that's where the project gets bogged down, because you can't get the approval anyplace else but through the health department. And often you hear, well, there's only one person who can review those plans. There's only one person who can sign off on this. And so maybe we need to realign where our personnel numbers are. And I know the county's been at the lowest number of employees in a long time, and the town has been a significant number lower. But what you need to do is reorganize them. You need to maybe hire some part-time people who are going to be able to review plans and get those things out quicker. At least have them do some of the preliminary steps, and then have the final sign-off for the person who has, the more experience, the more years in. But you need to think outside of the box, because we want things. We want the Suffolk County Department of Health to work. We want it to work for us. If there's a rat problem, if there's something to be built, we have these priorities. We say we want to spend the money, we want this to be good, then we have to watch where we're cutting money someplace else so that we can put the funds there.
Thank you. Mr. Gavilla.
Yes, can you just repeat the question?
Okay. Not word for word. Health department. People complain that it's hard to navigate, doesn't act expeditiously, yet they have a lot of control regarding sewage and disposal systems. What do you see as issues? What would you change? How would you handle it?
Well, thank you very much. Okay, well, I think that there's a lot of services that people are really not aware that Suffolk County offers, and they're not very customer friendly. And what I'd like to have is more open government. And just generally speaking, the government has not been very responsive to people's needs at all. For example, we have people come to the legislative meetings all the time and voice their complaints, and the legislators are constantly, ignoring them, checking their iPhones, and not paying attention. And they're not paying attention to people at that level. How can we expect people in the health department or any of the other departments to service the people's needs? Okay, so we really need to focus on being more customer oriented. We need to treat government more like a good business where we serve the people. And many of the incumbents have forgotten what the word public servant means, that they work for us and not the other way around. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Spencer, same question?
Since I've been in the legislature, I have been chair of the Legislative Health Committee, which works with the health department. And one of the things that we identified this problem, and I worked to automate the Department of Health, where we took the waiting time for residential and also commercial permits, we cut the time in half. We put things online. We also went to self-certification for certain things instead of going before the board of review to also save time. I like an idea that Councilwoman Berland did in the town of Huntington that would also allow an expedited process where we would allow things to be done in off hours, where we could organize that people could come in and if it's something that's really critical, that it would allow them to kind of jump the wait time. I believe that we have to be careful and do the right things, but the Department of Health also is critical for public safety, and so we can eliminate red tape, but we also have to remember our mission. Thank you.
Mr. Spada?
Thank you. I deal with this issue all the time in the village of Huntington Bay. As a member of the site plan committee and a trustee, I can't tell you how long it takes to get a project through because of the wait time for the Suffolk County Health Department. We really do need to streamline this process. Residents are waiting with plans, ready to build their homes and get their systems in, their sanitary systems in, and the Suffolk County Department of Health makes them wait. way too long, and it costs them money at the end of the day. There needs to be a way that we streamline these issues, whether it's possibly shared services, we can go back there, right? But we need to make the whole process a lot faster because it's costing residents a lot of money as their contractors wait and they walk away from these jobs.
Thank you. Mr. Schuon, we're going to start with you on this one. The lack of proper sewage disposal has resulted in contamination of our sole source aquifer in Suffolk. Please specify what laws you would promote to deal with the nitrate problems, VOCs, and pesticide toxins that have been degrading our drinking water.
Okay. The problem is not one of regulations. There are regulations. There are state, county, federal regulations to handle this. The problem is enforcement. Okay, we go around and why this stuff doesn't get enforced, I don't know. Also, sewage treatment plants. We've been told for years in Babylon that the sewage treatment plant in the South Shore, okay, is not adequate. Okay, then how come the county and the town aren't working to increase the capacity or build a new plant? Okay, again, priorities. Yes, we want to spend money on everything we can. We want all these services, we want everything, but we have to have priorities first. Okay, and this is where we're lacking. We can't just keep spending the money, throwing it away, while basic services are being neglected, because it's going to come back to bite us. We see it happening now. The contamination is a symptom of what's going on. Okay, it's not the cause.
Thank you. Mr. Troetti?
You know, we talked about sewage treatment, we talked about the sewage systems. And I started out by saying we need to look at all the rules and regulations. I think I counted one night there were 44,000 in total. When you have 44,000 regulations and rules, who's enforcing them, right? How many people are needed to enforce all those rules? And the bigger question is, do you need all those rules? How old are they? Are some relevant and some may not? So before we pass more regulations, let's take care of the ones we don't have. And then somebody said here about reallocating people. I think that's a good idea. Reallocate people from areas that we don't need the rules and regulations or as many rules and regulations enforced and put them where they are needed to get rid of the backlog and take care of the issues that we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Berland?
Yes, in the town of Huntington, we have an unfit naturally plan, which we've done for our golf courses, and which we encourage residents to do, not use pesticides on your lawn and not use fertilizers on your lawn. We are working diligently with stormwater runoff and replacing the basins, the catch basins, and making sure that the water is directed into the basin so that they can be filtered before it gets to the next step. There are a lot of different steps that you can take to prevent the nitrogen from entering into the water. The Huntington sewage treatment plant, we were upgraded years before we were supposed to. And we worked together with Doc Spencer to get the money for the Northport sewage treatment plant and get that upgraded. You know, it's people working together to protect our environment and also to make, you know, the sewage treatment plants upgraded as quickly as possible with a combination of work between the state, federal, and local government for the money to do that. And if everybody stopped using nitrates, it would be a lot better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gavilla.
Yes, well, it would be great for Suffolk County to do something. However, they literally took money out of the sewer stabilization fund, which was supposed to be used for clean water initiatives to help pay their bills and pay their contracts. And this is just another example of mismanagement of our money. And they took it from other funds. And the problem that we have to have is we have to have people in the legislature who can say no when there are contracts and other things that we can't afford. And we're hurting our people because clean water has to be very important to everybody. And this money that we took out of the fund, we have to pay back. And we're talking about billions of dollars overall. And it's not just that fund, it's other funds. And they're playing a shell game with our money. Okay, these are things that you don't know, and it's being underreported. And I'm just telling you that If you let me, I will make a big difference and will be more fiscally responsible with our money. We'll make sure that we put the money towards clean water and start towards sewers that everyone deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Spencer?
Nitrogen is a big issue that we have to reduce by putting in updated, innovative treatment systems. We've put a grant program in place where we can get rid of these old cesspools and cut nitrogen in half with new systems. We're updating our sanitary code to be able to allow you to do that. One of the biggest things that I was fortunate to be a part of was updating our sewage treatment plant. Right here in Northport, they faced the challenge of having 20 pounds per nitrogen into the harbor every day. We upgraded that plant and we reduced it to 7 pounds per day. We did that by using DASNY funds and outside funds. So there's an example where we saved the taxpayers, each taxpayer in Northport, $1,200 by being able to bring in $9 million of support along using the town and also the village officials. So we now have $20 million going into Huntington to be able to expand sewers from the train station out to the Simons Mall or to the Walt Whitman Mall, and we're going to continue to decrease the number of uncesspooled homes in Suffolk County. Thank you.
Mr. Spada?
Thank you. Just to qualify what Mr. Spencer just said, we have $20 million coming into Huntington Station for a study. There is no money to do infrastructure projects in Suffolk County for sewers. There was $171 million up until the end of this year that will be taken out of the sewer stabilization fund. That was for clean water, that was for sewers, and what they call tax stabilization. That money was used to pay pensions and other expenditures in the general fund. If we had that money there, we could do the projects we need to do in Suffolk County. But the present legislature took that money and used it for something that it shouldn't be used for. It was earmarked for clean water.
30 seconds, really.
30 seconds. Well, that's not true. There is $20 million. 1.5 million was for the study. There's $20 million going in there. The other thing is that the ASRF, one of the things that it fails to mention is that there was a referendum after it was challenged, and the people said 70 to 30 let it happen. In fact, Tom said that he actually voted for the referendum, but then he said he wasn't because he didn't read the fine print. Well, if you're coming into the legislature, you got to read the fine print.
And Mr. Spada, 30 seconds.
Thank you. As a resident, you go in and you see, hey, I want clean water. Who doesn't want clean water? But should we have to read the fine print? Should the residents of Suffolk County be duped into something that they really, really think they're voting for, but instead they call it tax stabilization, and they take the money out because they can't balance their budget? So they use that money to close a deficit when it should be used for our children and their clean water? Yeah, I like to read the fine print, but I shouldn't have to.
Folks, please, wait till the closing statements. Mr. Donnelly, you get the final word on this one.
So I actually know a thing or two about cesspools. I have 3 daughters, so once a year the cesspool gets cleaned down. So again, this is a generational issue, right? I'm old enough to remember when the Southwest Sewer District was trying to get implemented, a whole host of corruption issues. The county executive gets passing marks on this, I believe, good passing marks for trying to address it. It's not an easy fix. We do need assistance from the federal government on this, and one criticism that I would make of the federal government, it's not a Democratic or a Republican criticism. As a group, they need to work together for the Nassau and Suffolk as a region. The EPA bringing in funding so that it can translate to some of the clean water initiatives that everybody is talking about here tonight would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Troetti, we're going to start with you. We're going to do something different. We're going to go backwards so that we don't always have the same person speaking after their neighbor. So you'll go, and then Mr. Schuon. Schuon, then Mr. Donnelly, then Mr. Spada, and we'll come across that way, okay? The federal government has reduced regulations, but also taken action in a lot of different areas. What action has the federal government either strongly proposed or preferably done that would have the greatest impact on Suffolk County? Could be a positive, could be a negative. But could you comment on that?
You know, positives that the federal government does, but it doesn't get covered enough. So to point out to one specific thing, I can't really say. But what I would say they've done is they've loosened up regulations when it comes to starting businesses and also helping businesses. And that's something that I think Suffolk County can do. By making it easier for companies to start a business, you get growth, especially small companies. I'll give you an example. I just started a subsidiary company for a foreign company recently. And the state of New Jersey offered us free computers. It was a pure grant. Right? We took advantage of it. There's no such program like that out here in Suffolk County, to my knowledge. And I did investigate it because, frankly, I don't want to commute 2.5 hours every day to Jersey. But we wound up taking a place there. The rents are less. Perhaps there are some subsidies where we can make rents a little bit more affordable for new companies. So, to me, I think if we take a look at some of the opportunities that are out there that don't cost very much, you might entice some people.
Thank you. Mr. Schuon?
The best thing the federal government can do for Suffolk County is increase some of the taxes, especially on small businesses. Small business owners today have the worst time, and our layers of bureaucracy and fees and taxes make it nearly impossible to do business here in Suffolk County. New York State ranks either number 49 or number 50 in non-business friendly states. Okay? The federal government, if it relaxed some of the taxes on the businesses, would incentivize them to expand, to hire people, and that's what we need here in Suffolk County. We need business, and we need real jobs. Retail jobs are great, but we need industrial jobs. We need jobs that create things. You don't make anything by selling something to somebody else.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
Yes, positive and negative. Positive, very grateful to the Attorney General, Mr. Sessions. He's gotten a lot of resources in here to work with both the Nassau and Suffolk law enforcement folks to address the MS-13 problem, and it's pretty refreshing to see, quite frankly, the amount of DHS agents, ICE agents, FBI agents working in conjunction with our local law enforcement to tackle this is really a threat to public safety right now. So that's the positive. On the negative side, I already said it. I'm not sure that the congressional delegation on Long Island across the board, Democrat and Republican, work together to try and help the region. And I say that in a sense that 30 years ago, the defense industry ran Long Island in a very positive way. They need to make a better effort, I think, again, as a group, to try and draw that type of manufacturing in. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spada?
I think one of the best things we've seen just recently is the federal government come in and express that the opioid epidemic is a national epidemic. It's killing our children here on Long Island. Suffolk County EMS providers respond to hundreds and hundreds of overdoses every month. And we need as much money for prevention, treatment, to stop the spread of this plague here in Long Island. If the government can come in, the federal government can come in and give us the resources we need for law enforcement to stop the flow of drugs into Suffolk County, and give us the resources to get people into treatment and prevention and awareness programs, we might be able to make a dent in this epidemic.
Thank you. Dr. Spencer?
One of the best things that our government partners have done has been to work with our police And recently, I don't know, you heard about the fentanyl plus that was equivalent to almost 1 million doses. And that is just something that's just going to save countless lives. And things like this happen because of collaboration with our police and our federal task force. Some of the challenges, again, we face that I mentioned earlier with the federal government is, again, receiving our fair share. We need to receive more collaboration like this if we are going to, we have needs right here, but our money, when it goes to the federal government, it goes to other places around the country. And I just think it's important that we get our fair share, dollar for dollar.
Thank you. Mr. Gavilla?
Okay, one of the best things that the federal government has done recently is working with law enforcement, and it's because of the federal government that we've seen an increase in arrest of MS-13 gang members who are here illegally and being deported, because now the police know that they can report them and they can get them deported. If they're up to no good, they should not be here. And finally, the people that are in District 16, that are in Brentwood, that I've been meeting personally every day walking in Bayshore, they have actually told me they feel much safer. Okay, so that's one good thing that the federal government's doing. Another thing I'd like to see the federal government do is get out of the way of business. Lower fees, lower taxes, lower regulations. We once employed so many people in the aerospace industry, and you know what? My opponent was bragging that she read that there was like 8,000 jobs, but we've actually had a net loss of hundreds of thousands and thousands of jobs, and they all have moved to other states like North Carolina and Colorado, Florida. Everyone in this room knows people who have moved because it's too expensive to live here and the taxes and fees are too high. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Berland?
Thank you. I think what the federal government is doing in the opioid battle is really good, and what they're doing with MS-13 is really important. They need to maybe look at their environmental stances, look at our sea levels that are rising and our storm intensities that we're getting. They need to maybe recognize that climate change is a real thing. I certainly do not want anyone taking away our deduction for property taxes. Here on Long Island, that's a very big thing. We need to deduct our property taxes, and it's going to hurt us a lot more than it's going to hurt everybody else in the country. So I hope they take a second look at that.
Thank you. Mr. Schuon? We're going to have this one. This question was actually directed at one of the districts, but it's such a big issue in all of western Suffolk County that I would appreciate you all commenting. What is your position regarding downsizing the Heartland project? Would you support a rail freight transfer facility at Heartland? And if, because it may or may not be in your district, what's your attitude towards development in that Sector Coast Parkway corridor?
Well, we've already developed it because the Tanger Mall is already there. If it helps business, if it brings business to Long Island, we need to do this, okay? We need to get sustainable jobs, jobs where people make things, people ship things out. This is what we're losing on Long Island. Our industrial base has left. It's gone, okay? We need to bring it back, but we're not going to be able to do that if we're the highest taxed state in the nation, if we're the highest taxed county, okay, if we have fees of every stripe, red light camera fees, mortgage fees, okay, all these other fees that get tacked on to everyone that lives here, would you move a business here? I mean, it's crazy, you know. People leave. People, I don't care what the official stats say, people are leaving. They're leaving to get better jobs.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly.
Thank you. So, Heartland, just as a general principle, you know, I'm not in favor of it. I think it's too dense for that particular area. I happen to know that particular area pretty well. I grew up in Deer Park. I'm a 33-year member of the Deer Park Fire Department, so I've been in there on a lot of fires over the years. The second issue I generally have with it is the developer is very, very anti-labor. I come from a very much labor background. I've been a New York City firefighter for 27 years. I was a New York City police officer for 3 years. And without being able to pay prevailing wage, both on and off site, to to the trade unions around having apprenticeship language in the development project concerns me a great deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spada?
I honestly don't know how we're going to fill that development up. We just don't have the jobs for people to stay on Long Island. Would you buy a house or an apartment in Long Island for $500,000 with $15,000 in fees, with $15,000 in taxes, when you can buy a house in South Carolina for $300,000 and $4,000 in taxes? That's where people are going to go, and the reason for that is the enormous amount of fees that residents have to pay, the enormous amount of taxes that come our way, and the cost-prohibitive labor contracts that we have here on Long Island. Now listen, I'm a shop steward. I'm the first guy to negotiate a contract for a union. But at some point, this is all going to be unsustainable. So the Heartland, are we really going to be able to fill that place up, just like what happened in Wyandanch Rising? It's almost impossible. We have to bring jobs back.
Thank you. Dr. Spencer? Do you want to respond to what was just said? Okay.
Just as a
excuse me, I think you used yours already. Everybody only got one.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, sorry about that. Start Dr. Spencer again. Sorry.
We can't overdevelop, but we have to have a vision and we have to be responsible. If you build it, they will come. This is a great place to live. It's the best place that I could ever have to raise my family. And one of the things is that we need to be able to have places for our young people, to have homes, to have 21st century jobs. We need to be able to attract people to Long Island, to our natural beauty. And if we don't continue to work on our infrastructure, you're right, we can't just close the doors. We have to be responsible, we have to come together. And it's always, you kind of hear the sky is falling. Well, I'm in there, and I'm working, and I'm doing the job. They're tough decisions, but we're moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gavilla?
Our government is failing us. I oppose the Heartland. And what I propose when I get in is to put a moratorium on all high-density housing unless we give the people a right to vote by referendum, because it's disgusting what went on there. And by the way, those are Republicans in the town of Islip that voted for that, and I'm a Republican, and I went to them and I said, I oppose what you did and what you approved, okay? Now, look at the Wyandanch housing project. That is a failure. It has turned into Section 8 public housing, and that first floor retail, they cannot rent there. Okay, that's not a success. I'm a real estate broker. Almost once a day, I own my company. I get phone calls from people that are on Section 8. There's no inventory. By creating these high-density housing projects, they approved 3,300 small apartments in the Heartland, 10-story buildings, ladies and gentlemen. What they're going to do is they're going to house Section 8 public housing there. You don't believe it? Go to any area hotels that are not full with people that are on public assistance.
Thank you. Ms. Berland?
All right, the last thing I'm going to do is defend Heartland, but I clearly have to say that it's not Section 8 housing, so it's not. But I've fought Heartland for the last 16 years. And the problem was, especially on Comac Road, there shouldn't be any, can you stop mumbling, please? There shouldn't be any ingress or egress onto the property from Heartland. And that's what we fought. Originally, Islip said there will be no ingress or egress to Comac Road. Then they totally changed their mind and made full ingress and egress to Comac Road. That's the biggest problem. I think it's too dense. I think it's too much. And we tried. We really tried in Huntington to get Islip to stop. What my opponent doesn't understand is that in the county legislature, you do not do zoning. Zoning is for the towns. You can't put a moratorium on building because you do not have the right to zone. That is a town job. If he wants mine, after I get elected to the 16th, he should run for that.
Mr. Troetti, you have to answer this one.
So I disagree with Dr. Spencer. If they build it, it will come. I have good fortune to travel around the country on business. I've had the experience of visiting places like Texas, where they've done a great job of putting up these mini towns. What they do differently is they entice large companies. They moved Toyota, or offered Toyota, an opportunity to move from Orange County, beautiful weather, to Dallas, right outside the Dallas airport. And they built apartments around there to house their people. So I believe that we had vacant land in Pilgrim State. It was an ugly memory, right? But it was executed poorly. The second part is I do have concerns about the infrastructure around it. Can it handle 9,000 people in its current state? So I do not support it. Unlike Susan, I think the county has the ability to pull back money on sewer funds. If not, we'll look for another way to stop it. But I just don't believe we should let it go as is.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Mr. Donnelly and then work up. And a general comment for all of you. You're running for Suffolk County Legislature. Suffolk County Legislature, that's not an evaluation, that's simply a statement. You're running for that, not a town position. The legislature operates differently from towns. There are committees, sitting committees, but there's also a standing committee called the Waiver Committee, which meets once a month. And department heads come in and ask for exemptions to contractor arrangements or extensions to them. And the league has been following this quite a bit. And it seems that the actual legislators don't have much of a say in this at all. It comes down from the county exec. That's a lead into what should be the role of the Suffolk County executive and legislative branches in terms of contractors and contracts?
So the legislature has to be, without question, an independent branch of government, legislative branch. That's what it is. And there's going to be times when you're going to have to disagree with the county executive. The contractual issue that you brought up should be front and center. And if there's not a vote on that particular contract agency, then they shouldn't get the contract. It's really kind of simple, to be the way I'm looking at it. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it. You know, it's about government. It's about government operations. And I'm much better at government than I am at politics. I try and be very civil, as Mike and I have been through the campaign. But it's about the legislative branch working with the executive branch, and the executive branch working with the legislative branch. Thank you.
Mr. Spada?
So, as a village trustee and a deputy mayor in Huntington Bay, I get to negotiate police contracts. That's one of my main jobs. There's a lot of bright people on the legislature, right? They need to be in the negotiating room. You just can't leave it up to Steve Malone, who got $250,000 from Jerry Azoff from the Heartland, to negotiate a contract with a union who does the best job they can for their members and gives him huge amounts of campaign contributions. It creates an unlevel playing field. We need to level the playing field and get legislators in there who can negotiate contracts along with the county executive to make sure that these contracts are negotiated in the best interest of the residents of Suffolk County. Just to have the executive branch negotiate that contract does nothing but bring down that negotiating, that portion of negotiating, because the only thing the legislators can do is vote no.
Thank you.
How about we make a deal together and collaborate?
Thank you. Dr. Spencer?
I think briefly, one thing I said, if you build it, they will come. I'm talking about infrastructure, and I made that very clear, not just developing out of control. Contracts, there are two parties at the table, and I do think that it is important to have an open process. I also think it's important to keep in mind that when a contract isn't reached, that binding arbitration comes into effect. And with binding arbitration, frequently we see contracts being granted in excess of 7%. And so a lot of times contract has to be fair, or it can enter into kind of the legal system. So I think it's important that with our contracts, I actually agree that we should make sure that we have all the information as legislators, but I think that it's important that we have a process that's fair and open.
Yeah, Mr. Spalding for Mr. Okay, Mr. Hill.
Okay, I think it's an unfair process that the county executive can negotiate these deals and then the legislators just simply rubber stamp it and that's it. And the excuse is that if they don't vote yes, then they don't have a budget. And I know my opponent will rubber stamp everything because she's getting contributions from all the unions, which he brags about, in favor for a lot of these contracts. Now, I do want to mention another thing. No one thought that Suffolk County would be in charge of a red light camera program, which is totally unconstitutional. So yes, we could create a law that creates county-wide a moratorium on projects like the Heartland. Yes, we could do that, and that's a fact. Okay? And in the 16 years that she was in the town of Huntington, I never saw her oppose anything with the Heartland, and that has been built, unfortunately. And it's going to be down. Excuse me. Show some respect. Actually, you have trouble. You have trouble respecting people. What's the deal? Okay, thank you.
Okay, first of all, I have $14,000 that you got from unions. So I didn't get any $14,000 from unions. So there you go. Look at his filings, everybody. Look at his filings. All right. The question was whether there should be legislative oversight, which I believe there should be. You know, the county executive has his job to do, and the legislator has theirs. That's why you have two branches of government. It's called checks and balances. And we should be checking and balancing each other, and we should be participating together. And whenever there's an opportunity for anyone in the legislature to participate in decisions that the executive branch is making, I would like to be a part of that. And looking forward to doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Troetti?
Yes. So, when we have these issues, you have to ask yourself why overruns are taking place and why people are coming to you for extensions. So the first issue is who's monitoring these contracts. That's number one. Number two, the legislature should have a say in the contracts. We shouldn't just rubber stamp. We should stop contracts that look bad. We should probe into these contracts to find the details and understand what we're voting on, and not just say, well, the county did their job. So, in my opinion, there are two parts of this. One is, if you're elected, we represent the people. If we represent you people, I mean, including ourselves, we're paying the taxes, then we have to take it serious and really do our jobs and probe into these issues really deep, and then take corrective action. And if we can't, then it's up to us to change the laws that will allow us to take corrective action.
Thank you. Mr. Schuon?
Every legislator should be involved in the process. It doesn't matter, remember, the branches of government divide the responsibility. Well, guess what? The responsibility for the money is the legislature's. So if they're extending a contract that the legislature feels is not correct, the contract is not doing their job, no. You vote no. You can't be afraid to vote no because something might not get done. You get a better contract, you kick that one out, and you start over. That's business. That's how regular business is run. That's how an outside business runs. We need to look at running the government, running the Suffolk County government as a business. And guess what? The Suffolk County government does have a big say as to what goes on at Heartland. If it's better for Suffolk County to put in rail yards and to put in infrastructure for industry, then we should do that. Okay, we should talk to the town and work it out. Okay, that's how you do it. But to sit there and just let this stuff go on and say, oh, that's not acceptable.
Thank you. Mr. Spada, this is going to be the last round. This will be a 30-second question. There are 3 propositions on the ballot. We'd like to know what you think about the Constitutional Convention proposition, the pension benefits for those who commit felonies in the future, and also the Adirondack Park. So just real quick. And if you are undecided, that's fine too. We'll want to keep it private.
I am adamantly opposed against the Constitutional Convention. We made promises to police officers, teachers, and other governmental employees years ago, right? We need to keep those promises. Having said that, moving forward, we need to negotiate contracts that are not cost prohibitive like some of these contracts are now. Now, moving down the ballot, when you talk about the pension part of it, Mr. Burke, who is now sitting in a federal penitentiary, got a payout of $434,000. All right? And our legislature let that happen when they didn't have to, because Mr. Trotta put up a bill to investigate that gentleman. And it didn't happen.
Thank you. This is real quick, remember, because we need time for the close and for a little meet and greet. Dr. Spencer?
I am against the Constitutional Convention because of the selection process. Cost taxpayers a lot of money, and also it will utilize the current campaign system to put the representatives there. I'm a little surprised. My opponent, it's convenient for him to oppose it, but he's the Reform Party representative, which is he's the standard bearer for it, so you can't have it both ways.
Thank you. Mr. Gavilla?
I oppose the Constitutional Convention. I do support the idea that anyone who's receiving a pension and is convicted of a crime and is serving time should definitely not get that pension. Absolutely. And I don't have an opinion on the third issue. Thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, the League does have some literature if you're interested at the end, because there's a lot more detail to these. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Berland.
No, that's okay. Constitutional Convention, I am opposed. Pension, you shouldn't have your pension. If you commit a crime, while you're in office, that pension should be taken away from you. I believe the Adirondack existed to save them, so to swap that, so yes.
Okay. We have to Mr. Troetti.
Yes, I too am against the Constitutional Convention. I don't like the premise behind it, the cutting back the funds, particularly from our police forces and first responders. They earned it, they should get it. Second, if you commit a crime, felony, as a politician, you should lose your pension. Nobody should get rewarded for bad behavior. That's the third issue on the ballot. I'm going to abstain.
Thank you. Mr. Schuon?
Yes, I am in favor of the Constitutional Convention for the simple reason that the people need a voice in the state government, and we don't have ballot referendums, okay? But don't worry about it, because it's not going to pass, because millions of dollars have been spent to tell people that it's a terrible idea, okay? Second issue, absolutely, the law's a great idea. The problem is, it doesn't happen. Look at Sheldon Silver. Got arrested, got convicted, oh, sorry, he's out. So guess what? He gets his pension. Okay, third issue, it's so complex, nobody understands.
Except the League. We're not ready. Mr. Donnelly.
No, yes, yes.
Now we're going to go in each district. We're going to have the person who spoke first go last. Okay, so Mr. Gavilla, you would do your closing statement, then Ms. Berland, Mr. Spada, then Dr. Spencer, and then Mr. Troetti, Mr. Schuon, Mr. Donnelly. Okay, 1 minute closing statement. If you want to applaud, okay, real quick, because we need the time. They're going to start interrupting us with the library. So Mr. Gavilla, 1 minute.
Okay, we have serious financial problems in Suffolk County that's being underreported, so please don't believe when they tell you that they're balancing the budget, because they're not. We have a structural deficit that's over $165 million. They're having trouble paying bills, and how do they respond? They hit us with fees, like the red light camera fees, the mortgage, tax map ID fees, alarm registration fees, and on and on and on. They total $90 million. We have a problem where businesses are leaving Long Island. High-paying jobs are gone, and every day they leave. Now, my opponent, the only thing she could brag about was Cannon, and that's it. That's 900 jobs. But where are the thousands and thousands of jobs? They're gone. We have to work on making Suffolk County a more business-friendly place so that we can provide the jobs that people can get, that they can pay their bills and support their families. We no longer want this mass exodus of individuals going to North Carolina and other places. Do the math. You could get a house, a very nice house, and you pay taxes of only $4,000. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep in your pocket. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for being here tonight and for listening to us. I hope to have your support on November 7th for the 16th Legislative District. I want to bring my 16 years of experience in the town of Huntington to the people of the district. You know, I love doing the job as your councilwoman, and I really look forward to serving the county as well. You know, it's been a long campaign, and we have 1 more week to go. What I suggest you do, everybody, is educate yourself between now and Election Day. Read everything that everybody puts out. Read the literature, look online, see where we stand, and make an educated decision on November 7th. And
the library will be closing.
And I respectfully ask for your vote on November 7th. Thank you very much.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, all the candidates. So you know, I am the only registered independent up here. That means I don't totally agree with Republicans, I don't totally agree with Democrats, I don't totally agree with Reform Party people, all right? But I'll tell you this, the only people that I'm beholden to are the people in this room. I'm not beholden to any party bosses, I'm not beholden to any special interests or unions. I'm here to work for you. I can cut a deal with any union, with any special interest, all right? The reason why is I don't take money. I don't take campaign contributions, all right? And that's what keeps me honest. I respectfully ask for your vote for the 18th Legislative District on November 7th. You will get an honest, hard-working legislator. Thank you.
Thank you for this evening. It's really been a privilege to be the legislator. And one of the things that if you look, I have gotten results. I am the only one on the stage that's served, and unlike some people that would have you think the sky is falling, I believe our best days are ahead. I'm going to continue to bring those results to us. I'm going to be fair and honest. I'll make those difficult decisions. And I'm kindly asking that you would vote for me. On your way out, pick up a copy of my record. I want to continue to support our families, continue to keep our drinking water as my top priority to protect us from the gangs and the opioid epidemic. I have results in each of these areas. It's one thing to criticize, but it's another thing to do the job. I do the job, I bring results, and if you vote for me, I will be the toughest advocate that the people could ever have. Thank you.
Yes, I do thank you for spending the evening with us, and I'd like to say that the reason why I'm running is because I care. And I care, and the way I care is by listening to people. I've spent the last 25, 30 years marketing to consumers, and my success is based on listening, not on dictating. And what I'd like to ask you is just give some other people chances to run the government. I think outsiders have an opportunity to bring new ideas, new ways of doing things, and not the same old way of doing things. So therefore, I humbly and respectfully ask for your vote on November 7th to become the county legislature of District 17.
I have one question for you. Has our bond rating gone up or down in the last 4 years? Okay. Independents are now the largest voting group in Suffolk County. We should start voting that way. Don't vote for a party. Don't vote for a color, okay, on the ballot, blue, red, okay? Look at the candidates individually, okay? And I think that somebody like me can do the job and watch these people, okay? We need to watch our legislators. We need to get in there and get real information about what's going on. We need people in office that don't have ties to anyone else. Vote for me on November 7th, and I will do that job, and I will watch everything.
It's always good to go last. Thanks for having me. I have a lifetime of public service. I hope you vote for me. If you want to vote for one of the other candidates, that's fine too, but make sure you vote. A lot of folks died, so we have that right. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for listening. A lot of food for thought. As Colette said, this was videotaped.